I hesitated on whether or not to respond to this creator's video, but he is somebody that I've followed. He's somebody whose content I've talked up in the past. And so I want him and anybody else watching this to consider this video a call-in when I say that, Roger, what you posted the other day is really concerning. And it's clear to me that you don't see how it is. So I thought we could talk for a second about this video that you made.
Somebody needs to do an actual study into how having hateful and bigoted views physically makes you look bad. There have already been many conversations about how Carolyn Levitt is aging way too fast for a 28-year-old woman. Same with Charlie Kirk, even though he's done aging. But like the other day, I'm scrolling and I come across this behind-the-scenes clip from the new Zootopia movie. And like before I even started watching it, I realized that I've never seen the actress who plays the rabbit before. And immediately upon seeing her, I hated her. Like I didn't even know what it was, but my knee-jerk reaction to seeing her face was, I do not like her. Like she has the woman equivalent of a punchable face. Like I just wanted to call up my sister and ask her to slap the shit out of her.
No, Roger,
But then
no.
upon doing a little bit of research, I find out that she's a huge Zionist. So I was right. Like, I don't know if the universe just does that to let everybody know that this person is a piece of shit. But if that's the case, good looking out.
Okay, Roger. Okay, I realize that you don't see what you're doing here, but your opinion that people who hold vile positions have their hateful rhetoric manifest physically. And the other side of that, right? You saw somebody, you thought that she had a punchable face. Like, first of all, my dude, no. But secondarily, you initially saw her, you thought she was ugly, and then afterward you found out she was a Zionist, and that was confirmation for you that your initial revulsion of her because of her physical appearance must be because of her political beliefs, her genocidal beliefs. And earlier in your video, you mentioned Caroline Levitt and how she's aging terribly, looks really bad. And I've talked before about Republican makeup and the high level of physical alteration that Republican women get in order to fit a very narrow stereotype of what is beauty for them. And it seems really abnormal for us. A lot of it's giving Uncanny Valley, right? A lot of it's giving the Capitol in the Hunger Games, right? Makeup that we might consider grotesque, plastic surgery and fillers that we might consider grotesque and not organically beautiful, what have you, because they fall into that kind of uncanny valley or they're not flattering. That's not the same thing as somebody being unattractive. Somebody you believe as being ugly must obligatorily then be evil. The belief that somebody's appearance is tied to their moral goodness, that's actually a fascist position. I know that we don't see Republican makeup as beautiful, but they think that those women, that aesthetic of that very heavy, dark eye makeup, lots of lip filler, lots of pancake makeup, hyper skinny physique, often with breast augmentation, certain fashion. We don't see that as beautiful, but that is a beauty standard to them. They think that that is the epitome of feminine beauty. And we could talk about how fascism warps women's perception of beauty, how fascism encourages women to fit extreme molds in order to prove their loyalty, their submission to the regime. But the belief that people's goodness is tied to their physical appearance and that ugly people have punchable faces and that ugly people must have some hateful or terrible ideology underneath, that's eugenics, my dude. I really encourage you to spend some time looking up ugly laws in the United States. For almost 100 years, we had laws on the books all across the country that prevented disabled people suffering from disfiguring diseases and ailments, from being allowed to appear in public. It's upsetting. It's upsetting to beautiful people to have to look at people who are disabled, disfigured, don't fit a certain standard of beauty. That's all eugenics. Criminalizing appearance, especially appearance that doesn't conform to a certain beauty standard, that is eugenics, my dude. That's not a progressive position at all. And I do understand that the heart of what you were trying to communicate here was there is a level at which people's like inner hate can kind of seep out of them. There is a kind of like ick that we can get. There is a kind of like bristling we can get when somebody just kind of oozes evil, hateful positions. There's something very broken or warped at the heart of them, but that doesn't actually manifest in their physical appearance. We can get a vibe from that person based on the hate that's coming out of their mouth, and that can change our perception of them, so that somebody who may look beautiful on the outside, once they start speaking, like Erica Kirk or whoever, once they start speaking, the hate that's coming out of them changes our perception, so that we see the ugliness on the inside and are no longer able to appreciate the beauty on the outside. That does not in any way mean that people you don't find beautiful must somehow be evil or bad. That's I just cannot communicate enough what a dangerous position that is to hold. I know that you didn't intend it that way, and I've seen some other folks dragging you a lot harder than I am. I just want to read here real quick from an 1860s California ugly law that is often cited to help people understand how terrible and cruel and awful and eugenicist and ableist these laws have been, and how we really cannot we can't entertain any of this. Okay, so this law from the 1860s deemed it illegal for any person who is diseased, maimed, mutilated, or deformed in any way so as to be an unsightly and disgusting object to expose herself or himself to public view. This was a law that came out after the Civil War, when we had an awful lot of disabled, maimed veterans with truly horrific disfigurements from having fought in the Civil War to protect the Union and to end slavery. They were not deemed to be fit and public because they might give women the vapors. They might upset people. We don't like to have to bear witness to people that we don't find attractive. That's all about the right to comfort, right? It makes me uncomfortable to have to look at the reality that other people have to live a disabled existence, or have to live with the consequences of war and what it's done to their body. Other people have to live with diseases that are not being treated. Other people are on purpose. That's all about our right to comfort. And boy, oh boy, does fascism and eugenics play on that. We don't have to get into what Germany did to disabled people during World War II, do we? We don't actually even have to get in. I hope we don't have to get into what this country did institutionalizing disabled people to get them out of the sight of beautiful, able-bodied Americans. Also, please be aware that these ugly laws were tied into poverty, because people who were disabled were often left on the margins, uncared for, their needs unmet. Were deemed dirty, socially unacceptable. In fact, many of these laws, which prevented unattractive people from begging, talked about how paupers, disabled people begging, was a disease and a scourge on American society. Do you understand how dangerous it is? I know that was not your intent, but we are living in an era where RFK Jr. wants to put autistic people on work farms. He actually wants to exterminate autism. We are living in an area where SNAP benefits, Medicaid benefits, rights for disabled people are being rolled back. We are living in an era of overt white supremacy and eugenics. RFK Jr. is a eugenicist. This regime is eugenicist. Health and Human Services no longer serves to facilitate the health of the American people, but rather to further the eugenicist agenda of RFK Jr. and Donald Trump and Stephen Miller. And I really want to encourage you, please be more careful. Please be more careful in how you view other people, and ascribing value to a human being, ascribing positions, political positions, social positions to a human being because you don't like their appearance. You can criticize Republican makeup all day long. That's totally fine. But please be aware of how ugly laws are eugenics. Please be aware of the amount of cruelty and inhumanity that comes from assigning virtue to somebody's physical appearance.